Hi there. I'd like to share with you an interesting case of an enVista Toric IOL that I did in a patient with an open posterior capsule using a corkscrew technique to remove the lens. First, we have to go in and carefully open up the anterior leaflets of the capsule and take as much care as we can to avoid expanding the posterior capsule opening. Initially, I tried to open it up with a traditional cannula, but as you can see, especially with this enVista Toric IOL, the haptics are pretty well scarred in around the haptic-optic junction. Next, I go and open up my old cataract wound, and I make sure to expand it a little bit to allow for easy removal of the lens. As you can see here, using a Kugel hook, the lens is pretty well fused in, and I'm trying to avoid tearing the capsule. So after multiple tries of trying to dissect it, I then decide to use a LASIK cannula to separate the leaflets. And here I have a lot more success. I'm able to break the adhesions over the haptic-optic junction, as well as making sure that the haptic itself is completely free. It's important to do this from multiple incisions so that you can really dissect those haptics away from the capsule and make sure that they're not going to pull as we remove them from the capsular bag. As you can see, unfortunately, the posterior capsule is opening up on me, and I'm being very careful to add viscoelastic here to ensure that we don't have any vitreous prolapse. Now you can see that I've freed the inferior haptic, and I'm able to now use my Kugel hook to levitate the lens into the anterior chamber. So once we've removed the inferior haptic, we can then go at the superior haptic by going through that small opening in the optic-haptic junction. Now this is where things are going to get interesting. I recently found this new technique by Dr. Ali Olgun from Istanbul. He presented a corkscrew technique where you grab the lens with a McPherson forceps, use a cyclodialysis spatula to protect the cornea, and then gently corkscrew the lens out of the eye. Next, we inject a little bit more viscoelastic. Carefully, I'm looking to identify where the openings in the anterior-posterior capsule leaflets are to allow me to replace the new enVista Toric IOL. The reason why I had removed the first one was that the power was off by approximately a diopter, and the patient really wasn't happy with it. Unfortunately, the patient had a hyperopic result, and I didn't think LASIK was the best choice, so coming back to replace the lens seemed like the appropriate thing to do. Here I'm trying to carefully insert the leading haptic into the capsular leaflets, and now as you can see I'm using a Kugel hook to insert the inferior haptic into the leaflets. And as you can see here, the lens is pretty well stable. We then go back and do irrigation aspiration, and now I'm extremely careful. I've taken the bottle infusion down so that we have very little pressure going posteriorly, and we're just carefully removing viscoelastic. We have nice capsular support, and as you can see, the lens is very, very stable. Finally, we're going to hydrate the wounds just to make sure that the chamber is stable. And as a last effect, I'd like to put a little bit of myostat just to make sure that we haven't caused any problems and the iris is going to come down. So I come in from a couple different sides, and I instill a little bit of myostat. And as we can see, the pupil is starting to come down, so I feel very confident that there isn't going to be a problem. Finally, I check all the incisions. There's no vitreous loss, and the wounds are well sealed. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video.